Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Into the Machine from AEG. Into the Machine is a 2 to 5 player worker placement tableau building game in which players are trying to race their circle bots all the way to the end of the track, turn them into hexbots, and then get back here before the other players do. More details as far as how that all works before we do though. This channel is sponsored by Allplay, more about them at the end of the video. In Into the Machine, what you're going to be doing is you're placing out your workers. You're basically playing a worker placement game. You're doing a race, but the question you have to ask yourself as you play is what's more important, the race or building up a better tableau so you can race faster? It's not that different than, standard deck building or whatnot. How much time do you want to focus on? Actually, it's probably very different than standard deck building. I think I'm thinking of it's not that different than the Road to El Dorado, the quest for El Dorado, which kind of has that tableau versus race. I'm getting distracted. This is a racing game with tableau building, and you have to figure out where you're going to spend your energy. You see, in the game, what you're going to do on your turn is you do one of 3 actions. You're either doing a recall action, a junction action, or a standard worker placement action. We'll focus on the standard worker placement first, because that's where most of your time is going to go. You're going to take some degree of your little robots. You start with a little pile of robots over here, some circles, some squares, some triangles, and you're going to place them down on zones. The board has several zones. We have circle zones over here. That's going to be these pink rows over here. We have the triangle zones, which are these in middle over here, and then we have the square zones, the most powerful abilities at the bottom. So we're going to take our worker, we're going to take one of these, let's take one, and we're just going to put it over here onto that spot there. We put it on this zone, and this zone says we get 2 more workers. So we reach into our little bucket over here, we grab 2 more circle workers, we take them and we add them to our supply. We're slowly building up a supply. This is important because your circles are frequently going to be traded out for a variety of extra abilities. The next player goes ahead and goes, and they're going to take a worker and they'll put it down on this zone. Actually this is not a great zone yet. Maybe they could, you know what, no, we're going to move forward. So we're going to place it down over here on this zone over here, which is going to give us a movement action. This is going to allow you to either move a hex bot this way or a circle bot that way. We don't have any hex bots yet, so we're going to move a circle bot that way. We move 1, there we go. If we were moving again, we would skip the person that's there. But we'll come back to that. The next player is going to go ahead and take a turn. They'll take a triangle, and they're actually going to go ahead and place it over here, which is going to give them a power card. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to draw a power card, and you can play a power card on your turn. You're allowed to play up to 1 power card in addition to your turn. They're going to hold on to it for right now, because right now, they're at the head of the track. They want to be able to use it to skip over others. So they're not going to do anything else. It comes back to the purple player over here. They're going to take a look, and you know what? Maybe they want a power card. In fact, they actually want a power card too. So what they're going to do is they're going to take a stack of workers, because that's what you have to do in this game. If somebody's already in the spot you want to go, you have to place a stack in order to be 1 higher than the stack that's currently there. This is a 1 stack worker, so he's placing a 2 stack over here in order to do the same action of drawing a power card. There's a very important reason he's doing that. We'll come back to that shortly. He gets the card. He's not going to play it. That lets you move 2 different bots. He only has 1 bot on the track, so it's not a good time to play that card. Goes back to red over here. Red's going to take an action, and now, you know what? They still want to move again. In fact, they're actually going to go ahead and do what I just did. They're going to take 2 workers, and they're going to place it, I don't know what I want to do over here. We'll go ahead and we'll place down 2 workers on this zone over here, because red is going to eclipse their own stack. You can do this in this game in order to move 1 more. That's going to be red's turn. The red's gone over here. Where did red go last time? Where did I put red? I put red somewhere, did I not? Yeah, I put him over here. That's what I'm forgetting. I forgot that I just tried to eclipse my own stack. It gets back to green over here, and green's going to go ahead and put a triangle down over here on this spot, which is going to allow them to take a circle bot from their supply. That plus means from the supply, and they're going to put it directly from the supply onto the board at the gold marker, because that's what that shows. That's how you add another circle bot to the track. It goes back to purple, and purple's going to take our first junction action. A junction action is when you take the action between 2 spots. In this case, we're going to go to this spot, which is between this spot, and it's going to allow you to take both actions. Why didn't we do that until now? Because you have to have workers already in both spots in order to take a junction action. Junction actions, no different than regular spots, tell you what kind of worker can go there. In this case, it's a circle or better. In general in the game, squares are better than triangles are better than circles. You can always place a better robot or combination when you're doing a stack than the ones required. We're going to place that down over here, and then you're going to take both actions in either order. In this case, they can take 2 bots from the supply over here. They're going to grab 2 of them, putting them there for that, and they're going to draw another power card from the deck. This one's going to allow them to move 3 spaces forward. In fact, this is a good time. They're going to go ahead and use this, because generally in the game, you're doing one of 2 kinds of movements. You're either moving spots or spaces. When you move a space, you don't count anyone in between. For example, if you had a bot on the track and you were moving 2 right now, you would say 1, 2 as far as spaces. You would only count, you'd go 1 and then 2. You don't have anyone in between. On the other hand, this particular action, which you can find over here, is a spot action. That one means you do count if someone else was there. For example, if we did have another bot over here, you would either way, you would still count it. You'd go 1, 2, and then land on the third spot. So whether or not that's there, you would do that. The difference is, in this action, you will still slide to the next available spot, which means he'll go 1, 2, 3, and then slide to the next available spot. It's a good time to play that card and get a good jump forward. At this point, you've seen most of the various actions you can do in the game. There's a few more things to cover because, again, ultimately, the entire game is a combination of building up your tableau, which often means getting better and more robots, because the best actions in the game, especially when it comes to moving back along the track, are going to be the square actions along the bottom. The triangles are great, and the circles are a little weaker, and not to mention, they get cluttered faster because everyone's placing their circles there. You start with a lot more circles than triangles or squares. So in the game, you want to build up your tableau and get more triangles or squares. What's the best way to do that? Well, upgrading your robots while they're along the track. For example, in this game right now, if we were to take this action right here, let's pretend that's the red player's turn, they took this action, that means they're going to take an upgrade action wherever their bot is. Because their bot is currently over here, this spot says that you upgrade that bot, that one over here, you're going to upgrade it to a triangle. You move it from the board, you put it in a display, and you get a, not your display, your little reserve, you take a triangle, and now you have a new bot that you can place because you did an upgrade action. That's going to be true as you move along the grid. When you upgrade here, you get a power card. Here you can upgrade into a triangle bot, and power card, and then a square bot and power card. The further you get, the better the upgrade. The problem is the closer you are to just being a hexbot and racing back. Because in the game, generally the arc of the game is move your workers along, upgrade them to get better workers, and then figure out the right pacing of when you're trying to actually race all the way to the end versus when you're still building up your engine to be able to move your engine faster. That's how you play the game. The 3 actions you take are you place out a worker or stack of workers to activate an action. Or you can take a junction action, which by the way, I didn't cover this, but you can't repeat a junction action. Other actions you could place more to do it again. A junction action is once per player. You don't block other players, but you can only do each junction action once until you do the third action, which is a recall, where you pull everything off the board, which also makes the cost of spots cheaper. Because if you pull off the board and you had workers there, let's say for example, in this spot over here where red has 2 stacks, as soon as red pulls them off, instead of having to place 3 workers there, you could go ahead and place only 1, making it a lot cheaper, so timing is everything in this game. That is how you play Into the Machine. There's a bunch of other things to cover. We'll cover some more as we dive into my thoughts, my opinions, the review, and all that. But let's go ahead and start off with what I like about Into the Machine. The core engine building plus worker placement works. It is an interesting combination where you have this racetrack. You are ultimately just this race. That's all it comes down to. You're trying to figure out what's the fastest way to use worker placement to go ahead and race along the track. Which actions are going to be sought after the other players? Which actions are going to work well in conjunction with other actions in terms of the intersections you're placing in order to get those doubled actions? It's worth noting, by the way, that these are variable. You can pull them out. They go in different spots, so you have a different combination of what's next to what in other games is going to change where the ideal placement is, as well as what other players are doing. When do you upgrade yourself? The challenge as far as when to upgrade versus when to just race is a huge part of the game, and there's a very solid push and pull of engine building versus racing and how the players have to balance that. Not to mention the timing is everything as far as when players are going to recall. When can you hold out for another turn instead of having to recall yourself in order to take advantage of the fact that they just recall and a bunch of spots on the board just got a lot cheaper. These square actions at the bottom are incredibly powerful, but you don't start with enough square tokens to be able to take advantage of them, so you really need to move your workers along, upgrade to squares, and to be able to take these more efficiently than other players. Because keep in mind, if you're playing a game where other players are focusing on the race aspect of getting to the end, and you're focused on building a few more square tokens, if you can take 3 or 4 square actions when they're stuck not being able to take those actions, that can give you a leg up, assuming you can time the pacing around everything. The 2 hex win condition is an interesting aspect, which I don't think I covered. Basically, in the game, in order to win, you have to get 2 of your hexes all the way to the end, and then back along the track, and then into the zone over here. But if you get 2 here before anyone gets 1, you will win the game. Versus if somebody else gets 1 there, let's say you get 1, someone else gets 1, then you have to get a full 3 there. So you basically have to end up with at least 2 more than any other player. That's not entirely true. Just you have to have 2 when no one has any, or you have to have 3 in order to win the game. And that's another nice element of the game. And then the expansion. There's an expansion as well. The what's the box? The box name is the track gadget expansion. The track gadget expansion is going to introduce all these various track gadgets that go onto the track that totally change the gameplay. And I highly recommend incorporating these once you're 1 or 2 games into the, like play the first game without these, you don't need these, but as you play more, you'll have fun things you can put down the track, things like little portals where you can jump to other spots on the track as those portals land, things like giant magnets that'll pop on the board, pulling you closer to the magnet, so you land on this spot over here and you get sucked to the magnet, which is great if you're a hex going that way, terrible if you're a circle going that way. There's a lot of effects on these track gadgets, and this recommended scenarios as far as how to place them out that will change up the track that you're playing on. So combine the variability of the button placement with the variability of these track gadgets, and you get a much more varied experience as far as how to handle the machine with different gadgets in play. As far as what I don't like in the game, the variability of the actions is the main thing that I think is lacking. Most of these actions on the board, first of all, credit to the game, they're very intuitive. Once you see them once, you don't really have to check the rules for the most part, but the actions are pretty simplistic. They ultimately come down to moving, adding new ones to the board, and then upgrading. That's the main things. Yes, there's going to be a power card here. Yes, there's going to be more circle bots over here, but the core idea of the game is you're figuring out how to move various tokens, how to upgrade those tokens, and that's basically what you're trying to do as you move these bots back and forth. I think there is an interesting expansion possible for this game in which you add more interesting tokens, which is not just going to add more things you can do, but it'll make it more of a varied experience. If I was choosing 4 tiles from 8 different tiles for these circles, and then the same thing, if I had double the amount of tiles and I was choosing different combinations, then it wouldn't just be the way they place together, but it would even be which actions are in the game. You might have to have some sort of rules as far as having a minimal, like you have to have the ability to put bots onto the track. So you have to figure out how to make sure you always have the right types of actions in play. But this could turn into like a deck building type experience where, like the same way when you play Dominion, you can choose different cards that change up the game you're playing. I think having different actions, not just the placement of those actions, could enhance the game dramatically more. That is also true of the power-up cards. The power-up cards, as fun as they are basically just the actions. It's just basically, hey, this is the action you have over here. Now you have it on a power card. Is it useful? Yeah, it is, for a few reasons. The main one is you can combine it with an action, so you can take multiple things together when normally you're limited to one action at a time. The same is true of those junction actions, where whenever you can do multiple things at once, when the game technically wants you to do them one at a time, that gives you a leg up over the other players if you can find the right chances to do those. As far as I can see others not liking, first of all, this is less of a race than you might think it is. Like, if you got this game thinking or hoping it would be a racing game, I mean, it is a racing game, but it's much more a worker placement tableau builder with a degree of timing. Like, timing is a lot on this track, even knowing like, oh, I get a free movement if I jump over him, but then he gets a free movement over me. So you have to balance that with the other players in the game to most take advantage of this placement game. But it's much more of a worker placement tableau builder than it is a racing game. Additionally, you could get, specifically because of that aspect I just talked about, you could find yourselves in situations where you're playing too much of a waiting game on the track. You will get to a point with this game where everyone realizes that the right time to move is everything, because you can get extra free spaces out of it, but that means that sometimes you get into like, well, I'm not willing to move because I know you'll take advantage, so I have to wait until the right time where you can no longer benefit. That can happen a little bit. For the most part, when I play this game, people are happy to just move things along and get things get the fun things done, but you could have that slow down at times. As far as final thoughts on Into the Machine, I really enjoy this. I've been talking about this game a lot because I played this way back. I think this is my most anticipated at Gen Con, if I recall correctly. And while it's not my favorite game that I've played, I do like it a lot. I played this a long time ago, 4 years ago at Dice Tower West. I played an early prototype, and I really enjoyed the 1 or 2 rounds that I played. And then I forgot the game existed, or I couldn't find the game. I kept trying to figure out what it was, and no one knew what I was talking about. I knew it was from AEG, but even when I told AEG people like what the game was, no one knew. And then they showed up in crowdfunding last year, and I was like, that's the game. And I was very excited. And so having a chance to finally play it after all this time, it is the game I thought it was, meaning it's fun. That's what I mean. I mean, it's fun. It was as fun as I remembered playing. It is a tableau builder in which you are trying to figure out the right worker placement tableau building while managing the race aspect of it all. Overall, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Although I should note, even that 4 out of 5, I think is only the case because of the Track Gadgets expansion. This expansion is key to the variability that the game offers. The variability of actions, yes, I want more actions, but without that, the game itself is a little bit too samey. Because of the lack of actions, it's a little too samey, and so it's one of those games that would probably get a 3.5 out of 5 if not for the fact that the Track Gadgets does boost up the experience, giving you that variability once the core puzzle you've played it a few times. As far as other game recommendations, definitely check out Magic Maze from the same designer. Very different experience, but if you like quirky designs, I think it's another one that will deliver with a real-time cooperative escape game. Really, it's an interesting game to try out. And then check out Great Western Trail if you're looking for a game that gives you that kind of tableau building, but with a race kind of aspect to it as well. I think Great Western Trail also gives you deck building, gives you a bunch of mechanics all thrown into one. Check out that for another great experience with a lot more depth to it. As far as Allplay, I mentioned they are a channel sponsor. If you go to allplay.com, you can find a variety of games both from Allplay as well as their partner publishers. And if you want a different kind of robot game with a whole different twist, check out Factory Fun, an oldie but a goodie, one of the first games they came out with once starting to make board games. Check out Factory Fun. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.